Give me some of your time, and I'll erase your weakness. Not because I'm going to pump you full of cheap motivation, and not because I'm going to drown you in flowery, feel-good inspiration. I'll erase it because you'll finally see it for what it really is, an illusion. A narrative you've been repeating to yourself so often that you've mistaken it for your personality. If you're willing to sit through the discomfort, to listen closely, and to let me speak to the parts of you you've kept hidden, something in you will shatter. And what takes its place won't be a better version of you. It'll be the version that was always there, buried under the weight of your own false beliefs, just waiting for you to stop protecting your weakness. Let's get something clear. Nietzsche didn't write for the fragile. He didn't waste his words on those who needed constant comfort. His work wasn't aimed at the endlessly anxious or the overly sensitive. He wrote for the ones willing to look life's brutality in the face with eyes wide open. For the ones sick of lying to themselves. For the ones who've realized that nothing and no one is coming to save them, and finally decide to stop waiting. If that's you, if you're done with fear, done with passivity, done with apologizing for existing, then this isn't your transformation. This is your return. Because strength was never missing, it's just been buried under layers of self-doubt, societal training, and your addiction to comfort. So let's start with a question. What does it really mean to be weak? Most people think weakness is about crying too much, being physically small, or lacking discipline. But Nietzsche would tell you otherwise. Weakness isn't emotional expression, it's emotional submission. It's needing permission to act. It's outsourcing your sense of worth to people who don't even understand themselves. It's choosing peace over truth, lying about what you want to avoid judgment, calling laziness self-care, calling fear humility, and calling insecurity empathy. Weakness isn't the absence of strength, it's the constant act of betraying yourself. Here's the brutal truth. The modern world is built to make you weak. Your education trained you to obey. Your culture trained you to conform. Your media feeds you helplessness dressed up as awareness. And even people who claim to love you? Many benefit from your softness, your silence, your hesitation. They encourage it. They praise your selflessness, reward your passivity, applaud your restraint, not because it's good for you, but because it keeps you small, predictable, dependent, and forgettable. Nietzsche saw this. He saw how society shapes you into a domesticated version of yourself. He once said, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." He didn't mean just physical struggle. He meant the psychological fight to stay true to your instincts when the world demands you neuter them. The fight to remain dangerous, not violent, not chaotic, but dangerous in a world that wants you polite, polished, and obedient. The first step to erasing your weakness is to understand that you've been trained to mistake weakness for goodness. You've been told that saying, no, is rude, that asserting your boundaries is selfish, that choosing yourself is narcissism. But Nietzsche flips that completely. Real strength, the kind that makes you magnetic, respected, and remembered, comes from rejecting mass thinking, rejecting safety, and rejecting the need to be liked. So, who are you without the need to be liked? Not hypothetically, really. Strip away the filters, stop editing yourself. If you didn't have to be agreeable, humble, passive, who would you be? What would you say? What would you demand? What would you walk away from? Most people can't answer that because their whole identity is built on reactions, on feedback. They don't have a self, they have a mask. And Nietzsche hated that. He saw it as the death of the human spirit. Because the moment you stop being dangerous, when you start filtering your truth just to fit the system, you've already surrendered your power. But I know you feel it already, that quiet resentment, that simmering frustration, that exhaustion that sleep never fixes. That's not burnout. That's the cost of weakness, the cost of silencing your deeper instincts just to keep things smooth on the surface. And Nietzsche would tell you that you weren't born to be soft. You weren't born to fold every time someone raises an eyebrow. You were born to embody something sharper, primal, unshakable, untouchable. The reason you feel weak isn't because you lack strength, it's because you've been denying it for so long that you've started to believe it never existed. But it did. It does. And we're going to dig it out. Let's talk about habits, because weakness lives in routine. It hides in the small daily rituals that rot your willpower while convincing you that you're doing fine. Nietzsche once said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." And that's the trap. You wake up and the first thing you do is check your phone. Already you've lost. Not because phones are evil, but because you didn't claim the day, you surrendered it. You scroll, you compare, you envy. Then you justify it. But every time you react before you create, you weaken the muscle of sovereignty. You become emotionally flabby. You lose your edge. So here's the change. Start owning your mornings. Before you check a screen, check your posture. Check your breath. Remind yourself you're not a consumer first. You're a creator, a builder, a strategist. Your energy isn't available to algorithms the second you open your eyes. Start your day like you're in command, because you are. Weakness doesn't just hide in your habits, it leaks through your words. It's in the way you water yourself down so people feel comfortable. It's in how you speak softly so they won't feel threatened. It's in every time you say, "I don't know," when you actually do, and every time you apologize for things that don't even require an apology. Every one of those moments is a drop of power you've just given away. And they can feel it. That's why people talk over you. That's why they underestimate you. Nietzsche didn't whisper, he wrote with fire, and he expected you to speak the same way. Not loud, but clear. Because clarity is force. Clarity makes people pause. And if your presence doesn't make people stop and pay attention yet, then you have work to do, not because you're broken, but because you've been hiding. Stop hiding. Own your opinions. Say them clean, no over-explaining. Let the silence after your words carry weight. Most people are terrified of silence, but you won't be. Because silence creates tension, and tension earns respect. When you can stand in that space without shrinking, you become someone people take seriously, not because you demand it, but because you radiate it. Now, let's talk about emotion. Strength doesn't mean feeling nothing. That's not strength, that's dysfunction. Nietzsche didn't teach emotional numbness, he taught emotional command. That means you can feel everything and still choose your action. You don't react, you respond. When someone disrespects you, you don't explode, you don't chase, you don't defend. You simply wait. You measure. And when you move, it's precise, like a scalpel, not a hammer. Weakness is emotion without awareness. Strength is emotion under control. So stop saying, "I'm just an emotional person." That's not truth, that's an excuse. You're not doomed to be ruled by feelings, you're just undisciplined. And discipline isn't cold, it's clean, it's precise. It's the difference between crying during a breakdown and crying with purpose. One makes you a victim. The other makes you human. Speaking of victims, Nietzsche hated victimhood. He believed it was the modern form of slavery. Not chains on your body, but chains on your mind. Chains built from blame, from waiting for rescue, from using trauma as a reason to stay stagnant. He didn't deny pain, he denied passivity. The truth is, the world doesn't care about what happened to you. It cares about what you became because of it. That's why your past is either a prison or a forge, and you choose which. And Nietzsche's famous words still hold. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. But here's the secret, your why isn't something you find. It's something you choose. You don't wait for it to arrive like a gift. You carve it. You decide it. You write it into your days until it's etched into your bones. And when you do, weakness starts dissolving. Because when you know exactly where you're going, distractions die, drama fades, and doubt becomes background noise. So decide. Who do you serve? What do you build? What do you protect? And just as importantly, what will you refuse to tolerate for one more day? Write it down. Make it real. Make it non-negotiable. Because if you don't, the world will assign you a purpose. And trust me, it will be weak. It will keep you small, obedient, and forgettable. But that's not your fate, not anymore. Because if you've made it this far in this conversation, you've already proven you're not like the rest. Most people click away the moment someone touches their weakness. They flinch. They run for a distraction. They pretend they already know this. But you're still here, and that means something inside you is waking up. Something old. Something raw. Something that refuses to keep living as a domesticated version of itself. Nietzsche understood that weakness isn't just physical or mental, it's existential. It's rooted in the stories you've accepted, the definitions you've inherited, the silent agreements you've made with fear. And one of the deepest roots? The fear of being alone. You've been trained your whole life to belong. School trained you to raise your hand for permission. Friends trained you to stay inside the group. Family trained you to suppress what's inconvenient. Relationships trained you to be agreeable, non-threatening, easy. And over time, you became addicted to acceptance, not love, acceptance. That dead, passive kind of belonging that requires you to shrink just to be tolerated. But Nietzsche would look you dead in the eye and say, you must be willing to stand alone, utterly and completely, if you're ever going to truly know yourself. Because belonging has a price, and most people pay with their authenticity, their strength, their individuality. But not you. Not anymore. You're going to unlearn that addiction to belonging. You're going to become the kind of person who doesn't beg for a seat at the table. You'll build your own table. And if no one joins you? Good. More room. More space. More clarity. That's the first upgrade, solitude over submission. Now let's go deeper. Why do you procrastinate? Why do you sabotage yourself? Why do you delay doing the very things you know would make you better? Most people call it laziness, but it's not. It's a hidden loyalty, a psychological contract you made long ago to stay small so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Somewhere in your past, you learned that shining too brightly made people pull away. You learned that power created distance, honesty brought punishment, and ambition carried loneliness. So you adapted? You dimmed yourself. You delayed. You learned to kill your own momentum in the name of keeping the peace. That isn't laziness, it's survival. But it's also a contract that's killing you. It's time to break that contract. You're not here to be tolerated, you're here to be felt. And that requires intensity, decisiveness, and clarity. Nietzsche said, "The snake which cannot cast its skin must die." That's what weakness really is, the refusal to evolve because you're afraid of who you might lose if you do. But you're not going to shed your skin slowly or politely, you're going to rip it off. The people pleaser, the second guesser, the overthinker, the emotional translator, they're gone. Let's get tactical. Start with your language. Every time you say, "I don't know." When you do, you reinforce uncertainty. Every time you say maybe, when you mean no, you fracture your own integrity. Every time you apologize for existing, for interrupting, for needing anything, you chip away at your own spine. Speak clearly. Don't soften. Don't qualify. Don't filter. People will call you rude. Let them. That's just the reflex of those who've grown used to you making yourself small. And you're done with that. Next, your body. Weakness hides in posture. In how you sit. In how you move. In how you breathe. Most people live like prey, shoulders slumped, eyes down, breaths shallow. You can read a person's story in the shape of their frame. But starting now, you change yours. Stand like someone who knows they're being watched. Walk like someone who expects to be followed. Sit like someone who isn't asking for permission. Every room you enter, you dominate, not by force, but by presence. And presence comes from certainty. Certainty comes from alignment. So ask yourself, what do you believe in so deeply that you'd walk away from anything that doesn't honor it? Write it down. Carry it. Live by it. Let it bleed into everything you do. Now let's kill one of the most toxic forms of weakness, victimhood. Nietzsche despised the modern obsession with glorifying suffering. He saw it as a trap. When you make your pain your personality, you become addicted to weakness. You grow loyal to your struggle. You hide behind it. But here's the truth, no one cares what you survived. They care about what you became. And if all you became was bitter, anxious, and fragile, then you let your story win. So rewrite it. Don't say, I'm a trauma survivor. Say, I'm a builder of fire. Don't say, I was abused. Say, I became untouchable. Don't say, I have anxiety. Say, I own stillness. Words are spells. Speak power, or stay silent. And now we close. Because deep down, you already knew everything I've been saying. The real you, the grounded, clear, calm, dominant version, was listening to every word and nodding. Remembering what strength feels like. What clarity feels like. What it feels like to move without apology. To guard your energy like a king guards his land. To walk away from conversations that shrink you. To say no with your chest. To say yes only to what sharpens you. To sit in silence and feel no need to fill it. This isn't motivation. This is home. You're back. But here's the catch, you can't unknow this now. You can't go back to the version of you who made excuses, who delayed, who broke promises to themselves. Because now you know better. And when you know better, you either evolve or you lie. So choose. Become the person Nietzsche would respect. Not the loudest. Not the richest. Not the most praised. The most real. The one who looks in the mirror and sees no hesitation, only presence. This is your standard now. Guard it like your life depends on it. Because it does.